Presiding Officer, yesterday's Tory budget demonstrated whose side they are on. A budget that gave tax breaks to the wealthiest and did nothing to help those most in need. We need a meaningful windfall tax now to scrap the non-dom status and to invest in our communities across the country. That's not possible with this Tory government. And while the Tories do little to address the cost of living crisis across the UK, we have a Scottish Government not doing enough to address the NHS crisis here in Scotland. And one key part of our NHS is dentistry. So can the First Minister tell the Chamber what proportion of dental practices are now refusing to take new NHS patients?
First Minister.
I don't have that figure immediately to hand. I can provide it. But what I do know is that over 1.6 million NHS examination appointments were completed between April and October, with an average of more than 300,000 courses of treatment per month, meaning I think we're on course for over 3.5 million contacts over the course of this financial year. Clearly there are pressures on NHS dentistry, as there are pressures on all parts of the National Health Service, and we continue to support the dentistry profession as we continue to support the NHS as a whole.
Sarwar.
I should have declared an interest, of course, that my wife and I are both qualified dentists. And Nicola, Sturgeon may not know this, but I do, and my wife does, that actually you're meant to get a dental check-up every 6 months if you're a citizen across the country. So those figures aren't good enough. And data obtained through Freedom of Information request shows that just 1 in 5 dental practices are taking on new patients. 1 in 5. And in 4 health boards in areas in Scotland, 0 practices are taking on new NHS patients. 0. And we know who suffers when dentistry is cut back. Children, the most deprived, and families forced to go private. Almost 1 in 10 children have severe decay or an abscess, up significantly since 2020. And in fact, dental extractions under general anaesthetic are the most common reason for children to be admitted to hospital. I've worked in our NHS. I was a dentist in Paisley, and I saw firsthand the impact of this government's failures on the poorest communities in our country. So surely the First Minister knows, as I know and NHS staff across the country know, that this Health Secretary is incompetent and out of his depth.
First Minister.
NHS dentistry, of course, is under pressure. All parts of the NHS are under pressure. I won't repeat the statistics I gave in my first answer, but we have worked to incentivise NHS dentistry. We're in the course of abolishing dental charges, starting with young people, and I'll come back to youngest people and dental health in a moment. But if you look at some other statistics and comparisons, we have in Scotland 57 dentists per 100,000 of our population providing NHS dental services. That compares with just 43 per 100,000 south of the border. 50.4% of adult patients were seen by an NHS dentist in the last 24 months, 50.4% compared to just 38.2% in England. And of course, the latest figures show that over 95% of the Scottish population are registered with an NHS dentist. Just over a third of adults and less than half of children, compared to that 95% in Scotland, have access to an NHS dentist in England. So yes, under pressure, but a solid foundation there. Finally, in terms of child oral health, in recent years we have seen very significant improvements in child oral health in Scotland. So the first year of the National Dental Inspection Programme in 2002, Anna Sarwar should be aware of this, showed that 45% of Primary 1 children had no obvious decay experience. In 2021-22, that figure had increased from 45% with no obvious decay to 73%. That's the improvement we're seeing in child oral health. So yes, there are challenges, but we continue to support the dental profession to meet those challenges head-on.
Anna Sarwar.
Look, I welcome free dentistry, but you need dentists in order to get the treatment across Scotland, and the First Minister is clearly not listening to the profession. But now, rather than confronting the NHS crisis, we have an SNP talking to themselves about themselves. In fact, it seems the only things missing from this SNP leadership election is an Ash Regan press conference outside the Four Seasons, or maybe a saltire waving Stop the Seal rally by Kate Forbes outside Holyrood, and meanwhile the machine candidate, the incompetent Humza Yousaf, is presiding over chaos in Scotland's NHS. This morning we heard a mother on BBC Radio Scotland saying her son, who is about to start school, has never seen a dentist despite years of trying. Never seen a dentist, and he will be one of many. And the British Dental Association have told us the number of dentists in our communities has fallen, despite what Nicola Sturgeon claims. And they also tell us 59% of Scottish dentists have reduced the amount of NHS work since lockdown, and 83% of dentists plan to reduce NHS services further in the year ahead. In their words, it is very clear an exodus is in motion. The Health Secretary has lost the confidence of dentists and patients. He has lost the confidence of the SNP Finance Secretary. Surely even Nicola Sturgeon can see that Scotland has no confidence in him, and he's not up to the top job.
First Minister.
Well, ultimately, of course, it's the Scottish people who will make these judgments, and the record of past years is one that
Thank you.
that I know terrifies Anna Sarwar. But come back to NHS dentistry, because Anna Sarwar rightly talks about the importance of access to NHS dentistry. So let me just repeat the figures showing the reality. Elsewhere in the UK, just over a third of adults and less than half of children have access to an NHS dentist. That's the position in England. In Scotland, the figure is more than 95%. 95% of our population are registered with an NHS dentist. That's access to dentistry. We've got more dentists per head of population than other parts of the UK, and significant progress has been made on improving child oral health. So yes, there are pressures. Yes, there are challenges, but these statistics show that we are meeting those challenges and we will continue to do so.
Question number 3, Ariane.